So I, 32, have been married to my husband, 34, for 6 years. Before we got married, he had me sign a prenup stating that our financials would always be separate and the only thing that we would share was an expense account to pay for our household-related fees. The reason for this was because he was making pretty good money and I was in graduate school, so my financial situation was pretty bad, but I signed nonetheless because I understood he wanted to protect himself. Anyway, fast forward to now, I've been out of school for 4 years and I make more than 3 times as much as he does. I've never asked him how much he makes and he's never asked me either. Anyway, 2 weeks ago I told him that I was thinking about buying a new car as the one I had was really old since I had it since my undergraduate days. He wasn't really interested and he just told me to get whatever I liked. So a week ago, I decided to make a plunge and get an Audi. I was pretty excited as I always wanted one. At the time, my husband was on a business trip and he got back yesterday. I showed him my car and he was really happy for me. However, later he asked me what my monthly payments were as the Audi was pretty new. At this point, I told him that I made the purchase in cash and that I had no monthly payments. He was taken back and asked with what money, and I answered that I made more than enough to be able to afford it. He didn't talk after that and I thought that was that. However, a few hours later, he came back to me and told me that he thinks we should void the prenup. This is where I might be the asshole because I laughed in his face. I asked him why I would agree to do that and his answer was that we're married and should share our financials. So I told him we've been married for 6 years and yet we've never shared our financials and I was fine with what we were doing. And his sudden change of heart was very suspicious. He called me a bunch of names and stormed out and didn't come home, and I guess he told his family about our fight. They called to berate me and say how he supported me while I was in school. He didn't, and now I'm wondering if I was an asshole. So am I the asshole for laughing in my husband's face? Part 2, I laughed in my husband's face when he asked to void the prenup. I called into work and took a week off. I'm an independent contractor, so I didn't sign any new contracts. I sat my husband down and suggested that we should see a therapist. He refused. I asked him why he wanted to avoid the prenup. He said because he wanted to combine finances. So I asked to see his bank accounts, and he had been misusing his money and was virtually broke. He basically had less than half of what I spent on my Audi. He had also made a series of bad investments and had apparently sold his property that he owned in NE. But most of his money went to his gambling habit. I knew he gambled, but not at the rate that I saw. I asked where we went from here if he didn't want to go to marriage counseling. He replied that since I made more, he should quit his job and follow his dreams. He wants to be a professional gambler? Is that a thing? I don't know whose money he thinks he's going to use to finance that. I asked him who would support him while he was following his dreams. Since he hadn't supported me, I would also not be supportive. My parents helped me out with the bills while I was in grad school. He flipped out and said that I was lucky to have him and that he should have dumped me for a younger woman. I replied that I should have dumped him for a younger man. I know it was childish, but I couldn't help it. He also said that it was unnatural for me to be making more than he was and that we should have at least 3 kids by now. I confessed that I also lost my shit and told him that the only younger women who would date him were the drunk or desperate ones because he had crazy written all over him. After the whole fiasco, I packed my bags, went to some friend's house, got the number for a good divorce attorney from a friend, and I will meet with him this week and hopefully start the process. I texted my soon-to-be ex that I was filing. His response? He was never going to sign the divorce papers and I was stuck with him whether I liked it or not. Honestly, everything happened so fast that I'm still in shock. I don't even know if I overreacted by talking about divorce so fast. So there's the update. I'm not sure what comes next, but thanks for everything.
I worry myself when I buy hot dogs from the gas station. I'm like, girl, are you okay? Because I will not get into my own bed unless I'm showered, wearing clean pajamas, and clean socks, okay? If I'm at a party and there's a bowl of chips or party mix, I will not touch it because in the words of Lorelai Gilmore, it's like eating out of a toilet bowl. If I'm going through a drive-thru to pick up my food and their hands brush mine as they're handing me my food in the drive-thru, I get annoyed and I sanitize my hands. Like, that sounded really stuck up, but I've been told by psychiatrists that I may have a few OCD tendencies, you know? But then I'll walk into a gas station and be like, mystery meat that's been sitting in a public space for 9 hours where they have rats living in the bathroom? Yeah, sign me up.
The asshole for my response to my sister's boyfriend's brutal honesty. My female 35 sister, female 27, started dating one of those brutally honest guys a few months ago. He can be quite rude and make backhanded comments about me and the family sometimes, which is bothersome, but my sister says he's not malicious. I visited my parents' house to celebrate my sister's birthday, and my husband couldn't come with me because he was busy. We all sat down for dinner, and my sister's boyfriend said it was weird that my husband and I don't have kids despite being married for 6 years now. I was shocked he brought this up, but I said it was because of infertility issues, and he asked on which side. I didn't want to answer, but my sister said it was me. He said maybe it's a good thing because women over 30 might produce defective babies. Am I the asshole for my response to my sister's boyfriend's brutal honesty? He said now it's probably a good thing because he thought women over 30 might produce defective babies due to their age. I said that was none of his business, but he said he was just giving his honest opinion and that's all. I, in return, told him while maintaining eye contact, trust me, if I wanted an asshole's opinion, I would have farted. Literally everyone at the table bursted into laughter and my sister and her boyfriend were stunned. A few seconds later, her boyfriend excused himself out and my sister followed. She sent me a text saying I was mean and disrespectful to her boyfriend. And I insulted him maliciously just because he said his honest opinion. She also said I ruined her birthday by being petty and making her boyfriend the joke of the night.
Story time about how my husband hired a really hot assistant and now I want him to fire her, but he won't. Am I the asshole? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. My husband and I have been together for 4 years. Now, I've never suspected him of cheating, but I have caught him lying to me a few times. A few years back, I checked his Facebook Messenger and caught him messaging another girl. The messages weren't exactly inappropriate, but they were definitely flirty. When I asked him if he was messaging anyone on Facebook, he denied it. That's when I unleashed the beast and told him that I had seen the messages. That's when he told me that he wanted to break up because he didn't want to stop messaging her. This was some random girl that he had met at his job. We actually did break up for a few days, but then he literally begged me on his knees to stay with him. Then I caught him lying a second time. He told me he was going out to dinner with a friend of his who I already knew, and it was a woman. I had no problem with him going out to dinner with her because we already knew each other from a few years back. At the time, I was away for work. After 8 hours, he still hadn't messaged me. I decided to call him, but he didn't answer. That's when I tracked his location and realized that he was somewhere in the city. He finally messaged me telling me that he was home and he was trying to get to sleep. I took a screenshot of his location and sent it to him. Then he called me begging me for forgiveness. He told me he thought I'd probably get jealous if he knew that he was still with her. Obviously, I wasn't going to get jealous. It was just more upsetting that he lied to me. All of that was a few years ago. Since then, he's always been on his best behavior. About a year ago, my husband started a new company and it's been very successful. So successful that he's hired a full staff. Up until now, all of them have been men. But about a week ago, he told me he needed an assistant. That's when I told him I knew a friend of mine who needed a job. This woman is much older than us and would never be interested in my husband. But my husband told me that he was looking for somebody younger and someone that was interested in the field of work. A few days after that, he had finally hired somebody. I didn't really think anything of it though. By the way, I work in financing, so I'm usually working from home. My husband and I usually meet up for lunch, so I decided to go pick him up from work. But when I got there, a young hot girl asked me if I had an appointment to see my own husband. I told her I was the owner's wife and she laughed it off. She then apologized really quickly but didn't really mean it. Let me tell you how this girl was dressed. She wore a crop top and super tight leggings. She also had a full face of makeup on and her hair was freshly curled. It looked like she was dressed to go to a club, or at least trying to impress someone. Part 2 is up. Part 2, am I the asshole for wanting my husband to fire his hot assistant? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. After I told her I was the owner's wife, she made sure to stand up and show off her body to me. That's when I saw how tight all her clothes were. She then waltzed into my husband's office and tells him that I'm there. My husband quickly came out, almost running, and I asked him if everything was okay. That's when he said, yes, I just wanted to introduce you to my new assistant. Her name is Anna. Anna and I shook hands and I could feel that her palms were sweaty. That's when I knew something was up. My husband told her that she could leave for the day since he was going to be gone for a few hours. And guess what? She insisted on staying until he got back. And it's like she was doing it all because I was there. When my husband and I finally got into the car, I told him that I wanted him to fire her. He started to laugh and asked me why. I told him that the way she was dressed was incredibly inappropriate and that it looked like she was about to go party with all the makeup and hair that she had on. And of course, he told me I was overreacting and that he wouldn't fire her. Then he kissed me and reassured me that he wasn't even attracted to her. I asked him why he hired her and he told me that she was really smart and fast. Then I told him that if he didn't fire her, that him and I would have problems. He got in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Part 3 is up. Part 3, am I the asshole for wanting my husband to fire his hot assistant? This is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. After the second time I told him to fire her, he once again said no and got in a really bad mood for the rest of the day. That's when I told him that it was clear that she had a thing for him and that she was obviously dressing up and putting on all that makeup and hair just for him. He told me that she had a boyfriend and that she wasn't interested in him like that. But I don't believe it at all. You know, women's intuition? From the moment I met her, I got the feeling she was trying to show off her body and her palms were sweaty as in she was nervous. That's when I decided I would go to my husband's office every single day. And guess what? I decided to dress up too. I put on a sexy outfit to pick up my husband the following day, and she was dressed in the exact same way. Super tight leggings, crop top, and showing off cleavage. Her hair and makeup were done again. As soon as she saw me coming into the office, she gave me a really dirty look. I asked her if anything was wrong and she said no. I couldn't help myself and I told her that the way she looked at me was weird. Then she apologized and told me that she didn't mean anything by it. My husband came out of his office and told me that Anna, his assistant, had already brought him lunch and that he didn't need to go to lunch with me. I was furious. I gave my husband a kiss and went home. I insisted once again that he needed to fire her later and he said no. So guess what I did? I got myself a really hot personal trainer. Of course, my husband got really jealous. I told him that I wouldn't stop working out with him until he fires his assistant. He thinks I'm being terrible for wanting him to fire her, but I don't trust that girl one bit. And I can't say I trust my husband 100%. Am I the asshole? Anyway, my trainer has been flirting with me hardcore. I'm planning on making my husband as jealous as possible. Bye.
Am I the asshole for not wanting to pay for my girlfriend's services? I, 23, have been with my girlfriend, 22, for a little over 4 months and all is great. Before her and I got together, I would get my eyebrows threaded by a friend that would charge me $5 at first and then increase to $10 when she got in a studio. This was cheaper than going to an eyebrow shop. My girlfriend made comments about the shape they came out and that they're not her preference. She then did them once for fun and they looked the same and I told her I really liked them. I needed to get them done soon and brought it up to my girlfriend if she could clean up and reshape my brows. Upon asking, she responds with send me a $20 deposit and a date and time. If you're late after 10 minutes, it'll be $1 a minute. Am I the asshole for not wanting to pay for my girlfriend's services? She said send me a $20 deposit, a date and a time, and if you're late after 10 minutes, it'll be $1 a minute. At first I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She was dead serious. Then $10 after I'm done. So $30 total if I'm not late. I just want to say my girlfriend is not an eyebrow artist, nor is she certified or a licensed esthetician. She does not have a shop, nor does she have equipment other than small scissors and tweezers. I asked why I needed to pay when we're dating, and it should be out of courtesy. She said, well, if you were supporting another B word before, why can't you support me? Go support that B word.